Britain had the factories, so why is it buying everything from somewhere else? I came to Britain in early 2000s because the wage gap was obvious. Poland was still rebuilding. Britain was already built factories, infrastructure, industrial history going back hundreds of years. The average British wage was 4 times what I could earn in Poland. 20 years later, I am still here, but the gap I came for has nearly closed. And not because Poland stood still.
Welcome to Fix Britain. No politics, no lies, no propaganda, just logic and common sense for you.
James is 33. He worked in a West Midlands components factory for 19 years. In 2011, the factory closed. The parts it made are now imported, assembled abroad, shipped back to Britain, ready to sell. The price went down, the jobs went with them. This is not a story about one factory. This is not a story about globalization. It is a story about a choice. And who made it? Here is the answer. Between 1997 and 2024, Britain's share of manufacturing, its own economy, fell from 20% to under 10%. At the time of recording, British wages in real terms, adjusted for inflation, are no higher than they were in 2008. 16 years, no real growth. Successive governments increasingly favored politics that, critics argue, made imports relatively more attractive than expanding domestic manufacturing. The question is why and whether any other country made a different choice. Two did from a much worse starting point. In 1988, Poland's economy was in ruins. Inflation running at several hundred percent. Shop shelves empty. The average wage was less than $50 a month. That is the starting point. By 2024, Poland's GDP per capita had grown faster than Britain's for 20 consecutive years. But something doesn't add up. How does a country rebuild from near total collapse faster than a country that was never destroyed? In 1990, Poland introduced a program of structural reform, privatization, institutionalization, trade liberalization, designed not for the next election, for the next generation. Successive governments disagree on many things. Many economists agree that consistent structural reform were necessary. Poland didn't grow because it was lucky. It grew because it was keep building even when the politics changed, which reaches a question. Is Poland a special case, or does this pattern repeat? The Netherlands oil, no coal, land area that would fit inside the West Midlands 3 times over. At the time of recording, the second largest agriculture exporter in the world, after the United States, a country 40 times its size. How does a country that size of a large English country fed half of Europe? Dutch government elements invested in agriculture, technology, and export infrastructure, regardless of which party held power. The plan outlasted the politicians. Britain has some of the most productive farmland in Europe. At the time of recording, it imports approximately 40% of its food. The Netherlands asked, what can we build that lasts? Critics of British policy agree that Westminster increasingly asked, what can we buy that's cheaper? Those are different questions. They produce different economics. Britain in the 1980s was the fifth largest manufacturing economy in the world. Still, automotive, aerospace, textiles, industrial ecosystem built over 2 centuries. Here's the part nobody talks about. Successive governments increasingly favored politics that critics argue made imports relatively more attractive than expanding domestic production. Many economists describe this as a structural outcome of result of repeated policy decisions compounding over time. The numbers are straightforward. At the time of recording, UK manufacturing as a share of GDP under 10%, Germany 20%, Poland 18%, Netherlands 13%. From a country with almost no natural industrial base. British real wage growth since 2008, effectively zero. Polish real wage growth over the same period, over 60%. The UK ran a trade deficit, importing more than it exports every single year since 1982. In 2023, the House of Commons Business and Trade Committee described British industrial strategy as, I am summarizing, inconsistent, short-term, and repeatedly interrupted by changes in government priority. James retired after the factory closed. He works in logistics now, coordinating delivery of the imported components to British assembly points. The parts this old factory used to make. He earns less. The supply chain is longer. The product is the same. At the time of recording, Poland's economy is growing. Britain is not. The strange part isn't that I noticed. The strange part is how long it took anyone to say it clearly. Manufacturing is one decision, repeated until it becomes invisible. The same pattern appears in British energy policy, in housing, in infrastructure. Favor the cheaper option now, pay for it slowly, invisibly over the next 30 years. If you have watched your wages stay still, while everything around you got more expensive, you already know how this story goes. Britain had the factories. It had the farmland. It had the industrial base. The question was never whether Britain could build a long-term economy. The question is why the same short-term choice kept getting made. Thank you.